Speaker. Question to the Minister for Climate Change Issues. What reports has he received on New Zealand's latest net position report under the Kyoto Protocol?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Speaker, the report shows that New Zealand is set to exceed its Kyoto target by 11.4 million tonnes worth $233 million, a small improvement on the previous year's estimate. The report shows that while New Zealand's gross emissions will be 23% greater than in 1990, over the Kyoto period 2008 to 2012, this is offset by the growth increment of forests planted since 1989. However, the credits for these forests belong to forest owners. Foresters are expected to receive credits worth $1.8 billion. Consumers and businesses through the ETS are expected to pay approximately $1 billion, and taxpayers are expected to face a bill of about $570 million over the period 2012. The $231 million surplus is the overall balance for New Zealand Incorporated.
Nikki Kaye.
Speaker, supplementary question to the Minister. Has the Minister received any advice on the impacts of the government's emissions trading scheme on New Zealand's net Kyoto position?
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The advice I've received is that New Zealand would be in deficit were it not for the emissions trading scheme. The ETS is projected to reduce net emissions by 22 million tonnes as a consequence of the financial incentives it introduces to both reduce emissions and plant trees. In short, without the ETS, New Zealand would not meet its Kyoto commitment to stabilise net emissions at 1990 levels.
Mr. Speaker,
Nikki Kaye.
Supplementary question to the Minister. Can the Minister clarify that there is a difference between New Zealand's net position and the government's net position?
Mr. Speaker,
Nick Smith.
Yes, this is a very important distinction. New Zealand is expected to exceed its Kyoto target by 11 million tonnes, but the allocation of carbon units to foresters as promised by New Zealand when we signed Kyoto in Japan in 1997 means that New Zealand's net position is actually a deficit of about 30 million tonnes. The claim that New Zealand does not need an ETS because we are set to exceed our Kyoto targets ignores the reduced emissions that the scheme would deliver and the fact that the government still carries a substantive liability from emissions growth.
Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What advice has the government received about the additional annual cost to the taxpayer of continuing to underwrite carbon price risks by maintaining the 50% obligation under the ETS after 2013, as the Minister indicated on 8 April he was considering?
Mr. Speaker, the government is carefully balancing its Kyoto obligations with a real concern about the cost for consumers and for business. That's why we modified the scheme that will halve the cost for consumers from the 1st of July this year. This government has also indicated that if there is not significant progress internationally in countries like Australia and the United States, then it would be our intention.
Point of order, Charles Chauvel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question was a direct and quite precise one. It asked, what advice has the government received about the additional annual cost to the taxpayer of continuing a particular policy? The answer hasn't yet even begun to address the question, sir.
But if I recollect, when the member went on to carry on, when the member carried on with this question, a policy related to something a minister said on a certain date. And
verifying that he'd actually floated that proposal, so I was asking about the costing of it.
What the member is saying, he floated the proposal, and now he's asking about the cost of a policy.
That was the primary part of the question, sir.
But what I'm getting at is the member is now expecting me to intervene, where his question identified the minister floated a proposal, but he's now asking about costing a policy.
Sir, I'm asking whether it was costed when he floated it. I do think it's a legitimate question, sir. I can repeat it if it wasn't heard as clearly as it might have been, but I don't think there's any sting in the tail here. It's a pretty straightforward one.
I'll invite the minister, having heard that, invite the minister to carry on his answer.
Certainly. This government made a decision to halve the costs on consumers and businesses from the 1st of July this year. I have raised the prospect that in the event that there is not progress in Australia or the United States, then we would reconsider lifting the cost for consumers and businesses on the 1st of January 2013. The member asked what the cost of that would be. That is impossible to tell for a very simple reason. There is no international agreement beyond 2013. So to determine the cost for New Zealand, when at the moment there is no agreement beyond the Kyoto period to 2012, makes such a calculation impossible.
Question number 8, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
To the